Hello, DamnLag. This is a submission to Video Wars 14. So you want to learn to design thumbnails? Well, let me tell you, pal, you came to the right place because I know a technique so powerful that it will turn your thumbnail into a double thumbnail. The technique is called the one-shot knockout. Doesn't that just sound powerful? Let's get to the... Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my tutorial on creating the one-shot knockout thumbnail. Now, that sounds really powerful to gamers like you and I because a one-shot is like a one-hit kill and a knockout's kind of like the same thing, which is kind of redundant, I guess, but that's not what it means when I'm talking about. The reason I'm calling it a one-shot knockout is because I would recommend it for if you're doing a video that is contained within itself, not like a series, like if it's just this video. Or if you want to do it for the series, I guess that's fine, but you would have to make a new one each time. You couldn't just use a template without it being overly complicated, I think. But anyway, I digress. So what you'll want to first do is you'll want to start a new document in Adobe Photoshop CS6 or Photoshop in general. I'm using CS6. You can probably use other programs too. You'll just have to find the tools that are the same thing. I've tried messing around with GIMP before, and that was a nightmare because I was taught on Photoshop CS6. So if you know where these tools are in GIMP, you can very much you can pretty much do it yourself in that program, but I'm going to be using Adobe CS6. And the first thing we're going to want to do is name it, if you want to name it. Things knocking around in the background. We'll name it the One-Shot Knockout, because that sounds cool, and you'll want to... I told them I was recording, and they're rummaging around the bathroom. Fantastic. You're going to want to set your width, your height, and your resolution, which I'm not really sure what the resolution is. I put it at 110 for some reason. Not really sure what the reason is, and that should be good. Square pixels, all that good stuff. And okay, then you got your workstation. I prefer turning the grid off because it snaps too, and I have a transparent background, which is something you might want if you prefer it, or maybe you don't. Okay, so let's get to the meat of the things. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to import several images that are the size of your... Or actually, not import, place, my bad. You're going to want to place several images. I am using space because I thought they looked cool. And we are going to... Let's pick the blue one. That's nice. That's a pretty nice one. We'll move that up. So we'll import this blue one here. I think that looks pretty nice, in my opinion. That's a good one to work with. We're also going to want to... I'm going to personally import 3. You might only need 2, but I'm going to use 3 for a specific reason. 1, it'll demonstrate the technique a little bit more clearly, and 2, it looks nice, in my opinion. We're going to want this one of Earth, I think, because its color is a little different, and we're going to want a third one. I think I'm going to go with this purple one. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, so something you have to remember. Okay, 1, we're going to want to render all of these things. Rasterize, not render, my bad. We're going to want to rasterize all of these things so that we can edit them directly if need be, because I failed to do that before and something awful happened. Another thing you're going to want to know is that you're going to want your layers in the opposite order. What you want your background to be is going to go on top, which is different from normal, because normally you have your background on the bottom. For this, you're going to want your background image on the top so it covers up the image you want shown through. Again, because they're all wallpaper sized, it's going to be a little different, and because we're using the knockout technique, which is also a little different. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make... Okay, I need... For this weird font I have, 3, 4, S-P-A-C-E. That's 4, right? S-P-A-C-E. That's 5. I need 6 layers. On the first layer, I'm going to take my text tool, and I've got Mario Kart DS because I feel like this font is pretty neat for this kind of thing, which is why I've got 3 layers instead of just 2. But we're going to type out space in all big letters. The bigger the better, because you want your thumbnail to be legible when it's micro-sized on your YouTube channel, right? So 1920 by 1080 is just the resolution, that the maximum resolution thumbnails can use. So if you want it to look really good, and I know you do, because I know I do, unless you're doing the ironic thing where you scribble your thumbnails in MS Paint, you want it to look good, you want your font to be big so it can be seen when it's small. And the bigger you make the thumbnail, when you downsize it, it'll look nicer. I think it's called like downsampling or something like that. Or maybe that just applies to video cards. I don't know. But that's what I do. And I think it looks pretty nice when done that way. And what you're going to want to do next is you're going to want it centered according to the snap-on things, like so. And the reason I need it for this font is the capital letters look like this. They have like the outlines. And the insides are not filled in, but the lowercase is the opposite. It's got the insides filled in but no outline. So I like to take that and sync them up. Again, this is a free font downloadable for you. All you got to do is look up Mario Kart DS, I think is what it was called. But there you go. If you want to make one that looks like this. And I'm not using space for any particular thing other than you can see the textures a little better. And I have nothing else to talk about. It was the first thing that popped into my head. I thought about like the galaxies and how pretty they were. And it seemed good to me. So there's that. And then I almost shifted. Oh, I'm messing it up. Stop. I don't want that layer. Sorry, guys. We're working hard. So bad at tutorials. This is an A, not an S. I keep typing S. Why do I keep typing S? The mystery is as much a mystery to you as it is to me. So we got SPA, and then we want a C. And it's okay if it doesn't sync up perfectly, like if there's just a little line between them, because we'll sort it out later to where you can't even tell. There we go. That's not what I asked for, thank you. Sometimes Photoshop likes to be a little finicky with your text, I think. Boop, 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 boop. Those are technical terms. You have to say boop when you tap the arrow key to move at a space. It's just common knowledge. If you don't know that, you can't be a designer. I'm sorry, it's not a thing that's going to happen. So after you do that, you're going to want to, first of all, probably rasterize all this type. There we go. Nice and rasterized. If there's something you want to fiddle with, you might try to get it to look a little nicer. Anyway, that's about as close as it looks like I'm going to get. So you want to make everything transparent except for these, if you're doing it this way, because you want to merge them so that they're all one layer and they move together and they're... See? That's nice. Oh, what are you doing up there? Get down from there. It's not important. It's up there where it's not visible, but I wish I could erase it, but I can't because then I'll have to try to move it back to its exact location. Anyway, that's what it looks like when you've got them both visible. And then, why is... This needs to... Not that. You gotta make sure you got your correct layers selected or things will be messed up. And what I saw was the transparency around the edges, so make sure that's in place. And then once you've got your... See, that one's also messed up. I wouldn't have noticed. Once you've got your three things in place, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put one above each of those. So I'm going to put that one above that, and I'm going to put that one above this. And then you're going to want to... I don't think you can do it there, but you want to go up here, select layer, group layers, and then you want to do the same thing with this one, layer, group layers. It'll look really cool on your thing. It won't look as cluttered. Well, it's going to for me because I leave them open. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the space one. We're going to want that one selected. And then we're going to right click it and we're going to go to blending options. And we're going to keep that normal, but knock out right here, this thing, this nifty little bugger. You want to click on shallow and then you want to lower the opacity. And oh my goodness gracious, looky there. You can see already in the demonstration, the font has become the background that it is above. It has successfully knocked out the piece of the background image, the first image up here, this one right here. It knocked that out and it replaced it with the picture that's below it, which is pretty nifty, I think. That's how you get that weird special effect that everyone had, that some people have, not everyone, some people have in their thing. And you want to do the same thing with this one. You want to go to blending options and then you want to go to knockout and set that to shallow. And then you want to lower the opacity to 0. And at first you're not going to see it, because remember, that's below this one. So what you're going to want to do is, if you get rid of that one, you'll see one, you'll see the image that was knocked out before, and 2, you'll see that the image has knocked out there as well. So in order to fix this problem, what you're going to want to do is erase... Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted to do. That is not what I wanted to do. Let me make sure that's not messed up. Yeah, okay, there we go, that's good. You're going to want to select the image that has not been knocked out here yet and erase it so you can see beneath it. You'll want to see to believe it. Yeah, see, now you'll see that right here, you'll see that you knocked out an S in the hole so that you see the other letters which were knocked out beneath it, and it makes that purple image show through. And I think that this is actually a really nice way to make things, especially with space, because it's so pretty, it's so nice. And there we go. It's also a really easy thing to do. Like, you can do this and they will just hand you a design degree, because like this is how you do all the artsy shit. You make knockouts and then you pick beautiful nature things and you're like, man, this is really nice. I like this. And they're like, yep, here you go. You got a doctorate in graphic design. You are now a certified hipster. Go ahead and make your album art for your favorite bands. That's how that works. 100%. I know. I have done it before. But there you go. So that looks nice already. But then we're gonna make it extra nice. We're gonna go to layer effects, because you see right now it doesn't really pop. It looks a little together because they're all like similarly bright. So what we're gonna want to do is, first of all, we're gonna want to edit space. You want to right click it and you want to go. Actually, don't even right click it. Click it. Go down to effects. And we're going to start with a bevel and emboss. Actually, we might not want that one on this one. I can't remember. We just want a very slight one. We don't want to go overboard. Very slight. Just make it pop a little bit. And then contour it to make it look extra nice, I guess. I don't really know what the contour specifically does. But you'll want the depth to be small but noticeable. Small but noticeable. Not like this. Actually, that doesn't look bad. But that's because I use blocky letters. If you use any other kind of letters, that's probably going to look a little too much. But I don't think we need it. I think we need to stick to what we were doing before and go with like 11. 10 is fine. We'll do 10. 10 looks good. You don't need a texture. You just need your contour checked. I don't know what this does. Range. Oh, that's like, okay. So, yeah, you can mess with sliders too. Just remember what number you originally had so it looks okay. And then these change the type of bevel it is. That looks pretty cool. Find one you like. That looks pretty cool. I don't know enough to say how to make your own, but you don't want to go too overboard. I think I'm going to stick with this first one. I think that's pretty nice. It looks papery almost. And I don't feel much of a need to change it. Stroke is nice for this particular font to make it pop out particular. I don't know why I said it that way. But you want it to be, again, very faint, like 1 pixel. See how that's not really all that noticeable, but at the same time it kind of is. And then we want to change it to white, because that pops out against the darkness a little bit better. And instead of outside, we want it on the center. That'll make sure that the instead of being on the outside of the selection, which is the font you chose, it will be on the very edge of it. A little bit will go on the inside, a little bit will go on the outside. Actually, you might want to bump it up. Not 23. 3 would make it look more even. One's kind of like some areas look thinner than others, but that might just be the picture themselves. Who knows? Not I. So yes, that centers it on the line. And as you can already tell, it pops a little bit more. It looks a little more noticeable. Inner shadow looks really nice on this. Inner glow looks really nice on this, but you want to change the inner glow to white to match the line. It kind of makes it look like the line is glowing rather than the picture itself. You might even want to go so far as to use the gradient. I'm not really sure what it does when it's that small. Oh, you can turn the opacity up if you want to make it like really glow in the dark. Maybe add a little bit of noise. Nah, let's not add a little bit of noise. That was too much. Choke will alter how much. If you give it more choke, it'll let the thing pop out a little more. Yeah. So you can, again, you can experiment with sliders if you want to. You don't have to. You can just go with the basic stuff. I like round even numbers, so 10 pixels is good. Range, not really sure what that does. Okay, so that seems to be the inverse of the thing. Man, I'm good at tutorials, aren't I? So we'll set it at 50. We don't need jitter, I don't think. I don't know what jitter does, but I don't think we need it. We don't want satin. That just makes it look a little weird. Actually, that looks kind of nice. I'm a sucker for these things, which isn't good because you don't really want them. You don't want to go overboard, but at the same time, that looks kind of nice. Anyway, we don't need them. We're not going to use them. We're not going to use them for this tutorial. Color overlay does that. You don't really need that unless you want to. I usually use it like if you want either a solid color, which I don't know why you would want it since we just made it a knockout. It'd kind of be counterproductive, but you can turn the opacity down and alter the way the knockout looks. So, and you can change the color here. For instance, if you wanted white to brighten it up a little bit, there you go. You can do that if you want to. I think that washes out the colors if you get too wild with it though. So we're going to go ahead and save that for a different use. Gradient overlay does the same thing if you turn the opacity down. You can also mess with the scale, make it more black and white, make it less black and white, more gray. And then you can also use the opacity up here to kind of make it about the picture below it instead of, instead of making it about the colors themselves. You can also mess around with what kind of gradient it is. That looks pretty neat. Anyway. We're not going to use gradient either. I don't think I need it. Outer glow. Again, this will make your stroke pop without making it overwhelming, I think. And then we, of course, want the opacity turned up. And we want the size turned down. Not to 0, to 1. There we go. Makes it pop just a little bit more. Adds that depth to it. And a drop shadow, again, makes it look nice. And as we can already see, this is already starting to shape up here. It looks three-dimensional almost. You got this dimension in the background, this dimension on top, and then all of that's on this other background. I think it looks pretty cool as it is currently. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep messing with it. For this, I'm going to recommend that we go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness, and Contrast. This is what I do when I want to make something stand out a little more. I'll turn the brightness down to make it darker because the other two are a little bit bright. We want it to be bright and noticeable. And then we turn the contrast up. We'll make it even darker, or down to make it a little bit lighter. Makes the colors a little different. So there we go. As you can see, hopefully, that makes the difference. And then we're going to go to Effects. And for this, since it's a background, we are going to do a gradient overlay. And we're going to make it radial. And then we're going to reverse it so that the black's on the outer edges. And then we're going to turn the opacity down a little bit. And we're going to make it like this vignette, kind of this very faint vignette. I think it looks nice. So we're going to take that to 15 just because round numbers. You can scale it down to make the lighter part smaller, or you can scale it up and make the wider part bigger, which I'm going to do all the way up. That gives this nice little center, which is where you want the eye to be drawn. It gives a stronger center because it's lighter in the middle and darker around the edges. Okay, so now we've got those out of the way. We don't need to look at this anymore. That's fine the way it is. We're going to go here to the other things, and we're going to go to Bevel and Emboss. And instead of making this down, you can make it... First of all, you want a chisel hard. I don't know if I did that on the other one. You want chisel hard. And give it a little bit of depth. Not too much depth. That's too much depth. Oh, another thing you want to make sure you have. Let's give it 100% depth. I don't know if that's what it was already on, but there we go. 100% depth. And then we can make the size a little different if you want to. Oh, let's not go crazy now. We're getting a little wild. I just want a very faint chisel to it to make it look like it's a separate entity from the outline itself. And as you can see, before you could notice that there was space between the letters and the outline of the letters, but now you cannot. It automatically looks nice. It's so cool. Contours to make that a little sharper. This S over here is a little dark. I'll see what I can do about that in a bit. We don't need stroke on that. Inner shadow looks nice. Inner glow might brighten it up too much. So we're not going to worry about that. We're going to use the inner shadow. We're going to use outer glow. We're going to make that outer glow white. That again will add to the line around it. Or not the line around it, but the glow of the letter itself, and it'll kind of separate it a little bit more. But we also don't want it to be overwhelming to the other part. So we're going to turn it down to like 2. There we go. And then we want a drop shadow, of course, or not. That's up to you really, if you want it to look like it's above this outer line, or you want to make it below. But either way, I'm going to put it on there personally. And as we can see, it's already looking a little more three-dimensional. And then that's pretty much all there is to that for the time being. If you want to make this part over here a little brighter, I would recommend going with the dodge tool, I think. And if you run it over here, it should make it brighter. Yeah, very faintly. It'll make it brighter. And you can go over it several times. You can make the exposure a lot stronger. Yeah, you just want to draw this out a little bit because it's really black. There's nothing wrong with black, but the background on the other one is black. And it's getting a little awkward, if I do say so myself. So there we go. Make it pop a little more. See, now it's a little more blue. A little less black. Bring out those blues by brightening it up. And there we go. That is a nice thumbnail for a video if you're talking about space. But I would recommend it for one video. Again, see, all this process that we went through would have to be repeated for each and every little thing. Now I'm going to do something a little bit extra just to show you guys how this would work. Because if you remember what I said earlier, the way it's lined up is kind of backwards from what you would normally expect. So you're going to want to, so let's say this is for a video game video and you want to include something that has to do with space from a video game. I can't imagine what kind of space object you would put in this, but we're going to go with the space core from Portal 2, because why not? And okay, what you're going to want to normally look for first is a transparent ping of it, because then you won't have to do this. But if you can't find one, a white background will work usually. Okay, see, this is why you rasterize, ladies and gentlemen. Rasterize, or that's not rasterizing. Rasterizing is just making it editable. Editable, not edible. I can't eat this, even if I did rasterize it. Oh, my voice cracked there a little bit. And then we deselect because we want the whole thing. Now see, let's say we want this behind the word space. If you just drag it behind the word space, which is on those group 1 and group 2, you put it in front of the background and then it's visible back here, which I guess, okay, honestly, that's kind of neat. I didn't think about it before. I never thought about using it that way, but you can put the space core in the background and people will be able to recognize it. And that's why it's so powerful, ladies and gentlemen. If you, let's say you didn't want space, all this space in the background, looking stuff like the earth and stuff. You just wanted a solid color, but you still wanted people to know what the game was. You can put a character in the letters instead of in the background itself, and it'll just be the word, but they'll know what game it's from, which is powerful in itself. Again, I said this is a very powerful technique. I don't see it used very often, but there was an example. If you look up the NAR video, I think from Instalock, they have the word NAR written, and then like the splash art of NAR is the letters, but the background itself is a solid color. That kind of thing, I think, is very good design. But we're not here for that. What we're here for is getting it behind the word space. So how can we do that? Let's problem solve a little bit. First of all, okay, I dragged it into group 2. So there we go. That's in front. Okay. There's no way to get it below group 2. Actually, there might be. Let's just leave it up here for now. How can we get this behind space? What we're going to have to do, is we're going to have to put it where we want it, wherever we want it to be. We're going to have to pick ahead of time where we think it would look nice, which is a little bit of an issue. So I'm going to go with like right here between the A and the P. And then what we're going to want to do is first we're going to want to use this, and we're going to want to select the P as the outline of the P as well as the outline of the A. And then we're going to want to go back here with those selections still made and hit delete. And that will delete those sections from the core. And now what we're also going to want to do, see, okay, so what we did was, I'm just going to show you by deselecting real quick. What we did was we cut those pieces out of the orb itself so it fits together like a puzzle. It looks like it's interwoven with these things right now, but it's actually, we just removed those pieces and it's lined up to look that way. We're going to want to do the same thing with this part. We're going to want to pick this purple stuff, the inner letter parts, and do the same thing. We're going to want to pick those two parts, go back up here to the core, what's his name? The space core, and we're going to want to hit delete. And suddenly, by golly, he is behind those letters. Wowzers. Not completely. There's still this thing right here where he's kind of interwoven, so we want to fix that. Let's say we want to fix that. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bam. He is behind those letters now. This is the kind of attention you have to pay in order to do things right. You want to make it look nice. You want to make sure you're interacting with your layers appropriately. And see, that's a very strong way to do things, is understanding your tools, which I'm trying to help you understand by giving you examples. I don't know if I'm doing a good job. I'm really bad at tutorials. But understanding your tools is very important. Understanding how they interact with, how layers interact, especially with something like this, where all the layers are kind of like going forward and backwards and pushing and pulling with each other. But there we go. We have done it. We have put the space core behind the word space. And space looks rather legible, I think. And it's centered and nice. And another thing you want to remember when you're making thumbnails, especially for games in a series, which I'm not covering in this video, when you have a thumbnail, you get like a little YouTube timer over here in the thumbnail. So if you use numbers, do not put them in this corner. This corner will be covered up by like however long your video is. And I think there's also like a border around it sometimes when you embed it in things, and usually a big play button in the center. But you can't really help that. The center is where attention needs to be, and that's the least likely to be seen anyway, as far as the big play button in the middle. But yeah, so there's a pretty strong design for a space thumbnail, in my opinion. It looks nice, it looks nifty. I think it looks a little high quality. Might have relied on these FX things a little too much. I don't know. For me personally, I like them. I think they look nice. It saves me a lot of trouble from having to go in and try to figure out how to do it all myself. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial for that. And next, what we're going to want to do is save this as. And you're going to want a ping, a PNG, if you will. I call it a ping, and we're going to call it One Shot Knockout ping. Nice. Save it for the smallest compression because it's not going to matter. Okay, now that we're saving it, and we'll wait for this to get to 100%, it seems to be taking quite a while. Where did I even save that? The desktop? We'll have to see. I'm going to go ahead and open Paint. And what we're going to do is, in Paint, is we're going to open... It just saved. Oh, look, all my League of Legends thumbnails. Desktop. One Shot Knockout. We're going to open that in Paint. And the reason we're going to open it in Paint is because it seems to save the files smaller. The smiles? God. I'm so bad with words, guys. I'm sorry if this is a confusing tutorial. I'm doing my best. Cut me some slack. And I'm going to downsize it by going to this resize tool, which is over here, and turning it to 1280 by 720. That makes it smaller. It'll make it easier to upload to YouTube, because if your thumbnail's larger than a certain size, it won't work. And then you just save it. And then you have a thumbnail that is to the correct specifications of a thumbnail on YouTube. It is the appropriate size, and it's the biggest you can get while maintaining the file size appropriately, so it's going to look the nicest usually, I think. So thank you guys for watching this tutorial. I hope you made it all the way through. If you didn't, understandable. It's a pretty long tutorial, I think. I don't know how long it's been going. I say I think a lot also, I think. Anyway, that's how you do the knockout. That's how you get the image and the letters. That's how you design it. There's a lot that goes into thumbnail design. I was trying to do something generalized. Obviously, like, you want to pay attention to what your channel's about, what your theme is, how it relates to your channel, all that good stuff. You also want to pay attention to colors and weight and balance and the elements of design. But that's a story for another day. Right now, we're just focusing on how to do the knockout and how to use it in a thumbnail setting. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.